What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Cliff, and today I have with us the owner of Resilient, creator of Aries Corner, and one of the hosts of the Hustle and Glow podcast, Ariel Austin. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Thanks for coming on the SANE Show this morning. Excited to have you on. It's going to be a really great conversation. Before we hop into it, I want to take and shout out the listeners. Again, thank you everybody for continuing to tune in. Listeners in 41 different countries, I just counted the other day. So really excited about that, and just happy that words getting out about the SANE Show. Yeah, appreciate everybody for listening. Continue to spread the word. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the SANE_show. That's SANE, SANE_show. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, you can find us at The SANE Show. Again, that's The SANE Show on Facebook. So today we're going to be talking about white collar versus blue collar in terms of jobs and, society's perspective on that and how millennials are kind of changing things. And then we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. So obviously, starting your own business and doing your own thing. So let's go ahead and jump into it. White collar versus blue collar. And Ariel, I know we kind of discussed this, prior to the recording. And, like I mentioned, a lot of this came from my personal experience having gone from, or really I'm still in that transition going from a white collar job to a blue collar job. And it's honestly been an interesting process because, one of the things I've been noticing is like how much emphasis we put on, white collar jobs. And
Right. I was just say that the emphasis.
yeah, because one of the things because I was talking about like previous generations because, like especially I know like say with my grandparents and their parents, like they work blue collar jobs, and the whole thing for them was like, hey, I want to send my kids to school and I want
hmm
them to have better opportunities and not have to work as hard as I had to work to get where I am, which I'm totally cool with that and understand that. But at the same time, one of the things I realize, and it's a millennial in me, it's like, yo, okay, white collar jobs are cool, but they
Right.
are they are super stressful, especially you go ahead.
Oh, I was just about to say they're super stressful, and I've noticed that because I've worked a white collar job for about I think I just went into 3 years for I just celebrated 3 years with my company. But I'm just like, like I'll get in a job and I'll like it for a while, get promoted, like it for a while, and then you're right back in this stressful situation again where you're
Yeah,
like, okay, what's next? Like time for another promotion, time to move to
yeah,
a different department because now I'm tired of it.
right, exactly. And it's so funny because a lot of people, they look at it, especially I talk to some of my friends who are blue collar jobs, and they look at they would look at me and be like, yo, you get to sit in the office all day. I'm like, no, being
Right.
stuck in the being stuck in the cube ain't all that lavish. Like I could understand if I was one of the big wigs, I got an office on the corner, got the nice view, everything like that. But it's not like that at all. And that's what pushed me to make a transition. I'm currently in school to get my Class L CDL license. I mean Class A CDL license to be a truck driver. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, so when people found that out, they kind of looked at me sideways, like, "Wait, you went to college, and you got to. So why are you doing this?" And for me, it's like, well, I understand that, but I'm thinking big picture, and
Exactly.
right. And I'll touch on this later, but my degree is entrepreneurship. At the end of the day, owning my own, working for myself, doing what I want to do with my life, and
hmm
everything that I do is a means to get me to where I want to go. And I'm sure, doing everything that you do, you understand that very well.
Exactly.
So, that's why it's like, okay, trucking, because, like yesterday I was talking to a kid and he went to ECU. and
Hmm.
he actually works for Amazon, and he's in class with me, and we were having that conversation. He's like, yeah, corporate America, you can take and spend your years trying to climb that ladder, trying to get that promotion or whatever. But on the blue collar side, like it's literally like what you put in is what you get
Which,
out.
hmm
Because one of the things I've been seeing too, like especially the pay and stuff has been going up, and because there's a massive shortage. People, a lot of these people that have been doing these blue collar jobs are, retiring, or, they don't want to do it anymore, especially in trucking because of regulation and things like that. And yes, it's hard work, but, the younger you start, the best time it is to do it, as far as like being young and doing things like landscaping, plumbing, that those,
hmm
because a lot of your, blue collar jobs are labor intensive. Not only that, but they are important to the economy because, I mentioned to you prior to the recording, I have watched some documentaries about the biodiesel fuel industry, as well as another one about farmers, ranchers, and fishermen. And I think sometimes when we discount blue collar jobs, we also discount the importance that they have to society, because like nobody's like there's you don't have companies out here just for the sake of whatever. Like they serve a purpose. I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
So this is my take on it. Like, I feel like it really depends on the person. Like, I've always been that type of person where I'm like, you have to do what makes you happy. So
Right.
someone like may get in corporate America and they just really not like it, and vice
Hmm.
versa. Might get in the blue collar job and they're like, okay, this is not for me. I feel like they both have their pros and cons.
Right.
Like you said, they make money, more money in corporate America by just sitting, but people might not like to sit in a cubicle all day. People might actually be like out wanting to work with their hands. Whereas, like, okay, so now you're doing more labor and maybe not making as much, but you're up, like you're moving around, things like that. So I
Hmm.
really think, and I guess that's like, what made you make your switch from white collar to blue collar?
It
Was
was
it
a
just
thing of wanting to do
the,
something different.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So a lot of people, for me, I'm not gonna say I love corporate America in the white collar, but I feel like I've learned a lot there. I don't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. It's okay, like, for now, like you said, I have to do certain things to get to eventually where I want to be. But there's things that I've worked both blue collar and white collar, and there's like things in both that I like and things in both that I dislike. So I think it
Right.
really depends on the person. I don't have like I don't shame people who work blue collar jobs because like we need both really.
Right. And I think that it would be helpful because, I think we're starting to see a lot more of that, not
Hmm.
just pushing people in either or direction. Because to me, it used to look like we would push people to blue collar jobs because maybe they weren't smart enough to go to college or whatever, and say, okay, you go ahead and you do construction, or you be a plumber, or you be an electrician. And then you say, well, you're smart, you're a bright person, you go to college and you get you a nice job and sit in an office all day. I think it should
Hmm.
be a thing where we bring it down to the individual and say, what are some things you enjoy doing? Because that's how I approach it with entrepreneurship. What do I enjoy doing, and
Exactly.
what can I do that I can maybe do a little bit of what I enjoy? So I like traveling, so driving trucks for me would be something that I can enjoy. I get to see the country. Yes, I'll be working and it will be labor intensive, but hey, I get to do some things that I enjoy at the same time. So, it's like it's that trade off, and it also creates a balance. And I think if we do a lot more of that, it would
Hmm.
it would kind of get rid of that stigma that, well, you work a blue collar job because there's not much that you can do, when that you work a white collar job because you're a bright individual and that you have a lot to contribute, where really it goes both ways as far as the contributions that people make to not only society but the economy. Because one of the things I'm learning about some of these blue collar jobs, like you have to get some kind of education, formal education, and you are like being a truck driver, you're held to the highest of standards because a class A, they consider you a professional driver. So, and it's like it's just it's a lot of stuff. They both are, like you said, they both are of equal importance.
And I think
It's,
you mentioned this earlier, but another thing that I think the big issue with is with people, especially like millennials, juggling between the white collar versus blue collar, is like our parents teach us. Well, most parents are like, okay, well, you need to go to school, you need to graduate, you need to go to
mm-hmm,
college to graduate, and then you need to get you a job in corporate America. Like that's because they grew up working these blue collar jobs. That's
mm-hmm,
the story that like we're told growing up. Okay, you need to finish high school, and then when you're going to go straight to college, and then you're going to get a job. Like they think
mm-hmm.
it's automatic that when you finish college, you're going to get this great job in corporate America.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's like, no, it's not what you
Not
think it is. It's not what you think it is. Okay, so let's talk about entrepreneurship. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I studied entrepreneurship, and um, it is near and dear to me. I'm going to start off by saying that. And honestly, I love what I'm seeing now with our generation
same.
because everywhere I look, like people are starting businesses left and right. And if people aren't starting businesses, people have aspirations to start their own business.
Right.
And I love it because it's the thing of, again, we're like the woke generation, I like to
Mhm.
believe, because we see that there's more to just having a 9 to 5, and going in, putting our career in somebody else's hand for the rest of our life, and then, hey, save up all this money, retire, and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like everybody has something that they love to do, or that they enjoy doing, and they want to start a business doing just that. And so, like, obviously you and I are in full support of that. And I just
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful thing for everyone to be out here starting, their own business. And what I'm seeing a lot of is, people, it's crazy, like, people starting gyms, everybody with their, fashion line. You're in that space as well. You got your photographers. I know one person that actually left the same company that I left, started a travel agency. um
Oh
you know
wow.
yeah, and hair, beauty supply, and it's just like, wow, okay, all these different kind of
Mhm.
businesses. I guess what are
Right.
from what you I guess what are you seeing out there?
I think that I'm seeing a lot of creativity, honestly. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's just so many things that people are coming up with, and it's amazing because it amazes me how creative our generation is. Like, when you think that you've seen it all, you see something else that has come
Hmm.
out, and it's like, wow, like I would have never thought of that, but it works.
Right. Exactly. One of the things I love seeing too is, like, you see these, like, articles on, like, social media or something, and it's always highlighting, like, a young person that started, like, some kind of cool business involving, whether like technology or something, or some kind of, like, I cannot think of a specific example, but what I love seeing is when people start businesses that are in a thriving space or
Right.
industry that's already well established and whatnot, but they come in with a business that provides the same products, but is doing it in a completely different way that separates them from their competition, and allowing them to still be in that same space, but be in a totally different lane. And I think that's what's really cool about, some of these businesses out here. And yeah, like you said, like our generation, we're just out here changing it, and just doing it differently. And what I like seeing too is, like, a lot of these people, because I get it, like, everybody, some people might have the vision of wanting to, like, be the next Michael Kors, or H&M, whatever, be the
Uh-huh.
next big thing in their space. But I think it's just cool to see people, like, being where they are and just being content, because at the end of the day, they're doing what they like to do, and that they are also providing some kind of service that, beneficial to whoever their customer is. And I guess from your experience, what do you feel is a driving force behind a lot of this as far as millennials and entrepreneurship?
I think it kind of goes back to the whole, like, a lot of people don't want a boss eventually. Like, a lot of people don't want to go into a corporate America or any, like, company for the rest of their life. So they're like trying to come up with something that's going to be successful, whether that's trying out like a whole bunch of different things. But really, I think a lot of people want to create a lifestyle where like their business is making money for them and they're not having to do like the manual labor to make money. Like, a lot of people in our generation are trying to create that residual income to where, once we get to that point, we can travel, we can spend time with our families, things
Right.
like that. So I think that I know that that's my personal drive behind it. But also, I just, like, people, I feel like our generation is very, I don't want to say rebellious, but we don't want to, I guess, listen to anybody or, have these rules that you have to have for the rest of your life when you go into a job. Like, it's not fun. Like, just being 100% honest. Like,
Yeah.
I get sick of going into work and doing the same thing every day and having to abide by these rules and stuff. Like, I want to be able to make the rules, really.
Right. Exactly. You know what's interesting? You made me think about this. What if we took, because especially when you work with so many different people, you find out that a lot of people have different interests.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I want to ask people, like, why are you doing this then? Like,
Right.
you want to do XYZ, but you're doing this. Oh, well, I got to pay the bill, blah, 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 blah. I totally
Mm-hmm.
understand that. And I have nothing against that because I got bills too and they need to be paid.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I wonder is, what if we just took everybody and just kind of like repositioned them into doing something that they know that they would love to do? You know what I mean? Because you have people that love, doing finance or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have people that are cut out for accounting. That's like IT guys or the guys that do all the coding and whatnot. Like, yeah, they may be super nerdy, but they're really good at their job. And they enjoy what they do. And yes, some of them may be socially awkward, but hey, he loves what he does. And I hear those guys get paid stupid money for it too. So, like, with those kinds of things, like, people doing what they enjoy, because, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't I don't knock anybody wanting to do a job that I may think is absolutely boring and that sometimes I may deem as pointless. But hey, if you enjoy that and you do that, you do you, because that's what you're cut out for. You feel me on that one?
Right.
So, uh, but yeah, I think that entrepreneurship is a great thing, and one of those things too that I feel like we're still. It's not anything new because people have always been starting businesses, but like I guess on an academic level, like, we're still trying to get an understanding of how this, I guess, like, how to better educate people on it and get a better understanding of the whole entrepreneurship thing out,
Mm-hmm.
because it's still, at least from my experience at UNCG Smart and Pride, uh,
Yes.
as far as, like, it's still one of those things, like, we're still kind of grappling with. And I guess really trying to get get those students who are, wanting to be entrepreneurs, try to get, try to figure out the best way to, to set them on that path.
And I
And
also think it's not, I think a lot of people, like, when you're seeing entrepreneurs, like these successful entrepreneurs that are bringing in, like, like they're millionaires or, like, making six figures and things like that.
hmm
Entrepreneurship is really hard. And a lot of people just see the end result of it. So it's like,
right,
you see all people's success, but you don't see like the time, the effort, the losses, like everything they took to get there. So I
right.
think that a lot of people are still in the mindset that it's easy, and then they get into, their businesses and stuff, and they're trying to make them work, and it gets really, really hard. And I've
Yeah.
experienced that too, but it's just like it takes like a lot of consistency. It
Yeah.
takes a lot, like, blood, sweat, and tears, to say the least. But it's just, it looks easier than it really is. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people get discouraged by that, because I know, like, sometimes, and I've even said this, like, some of my businesses, like, when I'm consistent, I do pretty good. When I'm not consistent, I won't make a sale like in a couple months. And I'm like, oh, here you are being inconsistent again. So you
Yeah.
really have to, like, it's consistent, and you have to put a lot of effort into it until, like, you get that, okay, this is successful now. This is ongoing.
Right.
It's hard.
Right. It really is. And oh, man, you just had me thinking about all the money I lost.
Yeah,
I'm,
and
I'm
I've
a,
lost so much money. And I like, there's been times where I'm like, all right, this is done. I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm like, you have to, that's when you have to remember why you started. Like, okay, well,
yeah,
let me not do that.
exactly. Here's a cool thing too, though. I think because along my journey, one of the things that I learned about myself is that I became, I guess, more of a hustler. Like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially
I've
because all right,
always said that I'm like a professional side hustler, and people think I'm crazy. I will side hustle all day. People are like, I've never met anybody that works as hard or has as like little gigs as you do. And I'm like, well, I don't care.
right, right. And so here's the thing, because I think I get it from all both sides of my family. But when I look at my dad, like he's done so much, and I used to look at him. I still look at him like, man, this guy
Hmm.
can hustle, and like he has so many like degrees and so many different trades. Like he's done it all just about. And I'm like, man, I wish I had that. But then I look at some of the things I've done recently, and I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe I do have that because I did this and I did that, and I took this risk because that's a big thing right there, being taking that risk and then being able to make something work
Hmm.
and still stick to it and say, okay, that wasn't all that bad. Because I tell you, especially like when I made some of these investments, I'm like, okay, I'm about to put up X amount of money. All right, that's a lot of money, but hey, that's it's cool. I'm gonna get it back
Right.
somehow. I'm gonna get that back, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Like whether it's through my return or whether it's through my hard work through my day to day, because I'm a career sales professional, so it's like I you know gotta hustle doing that. So it's like, I'm gonna make this money back. I don't know how, but I'm gonna make it back. And
Right.
I'm here to say it. I'm still good. So,
Right.
yeah.
And that's,
And
I'm like, all right, how do I make the next dollar? Let's
right,
go.
exactly. All right, now we're going to do the interview. And we just want to ask you a few questions, let the listeners get to learn a little bit more about you, what you have going on, and also your entrepreneurial ventures. So, I know this is a question I get a lot, and I like to ask other entrepreneurs, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
So really, I just, like, in a simple answer, I just at first kind of wanted my own thing. I started like blogging in the Aries Corner business, which is kind of more. It started off more so nonprofit when I first began started it, but it was just kind of wanting my own thing, wanting to make a name for myself, wanting, like, a platform that I could network on, things like that. I was actually just serving, waiting tables at the time that I started my first business. But yeah, just really wanting my own thing, eventually creating this lifestyle that I wouldn't have to work for anyone else. Yeah, that's really my drive to why I got started with things.
Okay. So, I know one of the things that really big for you right now, resilient. Tell the listeners a little bit more about that.
Okay, so Resilient is my clothing line that I started in 2016. I had just got graduated from college. I was living at home with my parents, and I was really, and I've always been into fashion. Not the type of money to, like, buy a whole not the type of person to buy a whole bunch of name brand stuff or spend a lot of money. on things, but I was like, okay, so I want to start this clothing line, but everybody has, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have clothing lines. So it's like, okay, what would make my clothing line different from everyone else's? And, I just kind of looked up different things, started researching and coming up with a name. I was like, okay, what am I gonna call this? And I kept coming with names. I'm like, no, no, no. And it was kind of like resilient was in the back of my mind, but I'm like, what am I gonna do with that? Which resilient is basically like, able to withstand and recover and spring back from hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people used to ask me like, okay, well, if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be? And I would always say resilient, because just like different obstacles and stuff that I had overcame and faced in my lifetime. And then I'm like, okay, well, a lot of people are resilient. Everybody has different battles and things that they go through. So that's how I came up with resilient. I'm like, this should be like, it's kind of like a staple, but also like a reminder, like when you wear the apparel that, no matter what you've been through in life, like you're resilient, like you're able to overcome situations that you've been through and be successful. So that's kind of like the little meaning behind resilient, and it worked. A lot of people liked it.
Yeah, I really like the name
Thank
resilient,
you.
and I think when you see it enough times, it does stick. And I'm looking at my notes, and I'm looking at it right now, resilient, and I specialize in marketing as well. And
Mhm.
one of the biggest things for me, especially when we're talking about names, brand name, is something sweet, something simple and straight to the point,
Yes.
and not not too much. So when you say resilient, like that's it. That's enough. Nothing else needs to be said. And I mean, it's an actual word, so it's something that somebody can go look up in the dictionary, and then if they ask you about it, they'll you can give them the backstory of it, and then when they look at it, they look at it in a totally different light, and they say, "Wow, okay, resilient. I like that." Like that can
Right.
be taken and I guess interpret it in so many ways, and so many good ways at that. Yeah, I commend you on that one. I like that name, resilient.
Thank you.
So, what is Aries Corner?
Okay, so Aries Corner. This is my project because it's been so many different things at different
Mm-hmm.
points in time. So Aries Corner started off as a blog where it
Mm-hmm.
was basically based around women's empowerment. Like I would do motivational Mondays, which I still do. It's kind of different than it first started out, but where I would just, post like a lot of women's empowerment things. I
Yeah.
did I would do service projects through it. So I did Operation Sandwich Greensboro for 3 years, where basically, you get a group of people together, you make sandwiches, and you go out in the community and you pass out the sandwiches to homeless people, and then we would donate the leftover sandwiches to a homeless shelter, and they would freeze them and serve them for lunch throughout the next week. I also did the Priceless Prom giveaway, which this past year was my third time doing it as well, where I sent a senior girl to prom for free. Like everything's provided, their hair, their nails, their dress, shoes, all of that. Like everything's paid for, including their prom ticket. And that's just kind of a chance to do some mentorship and send someone who maybe can't afford it to prom and not have to worry about it, as well as senior year gets expensive, so they're filling out
Oh,
college
trust.
applications, yeah, things
Ooh.
like that. So that's how it started out. It's grown to where I'm doing. So what I had to do kind of with Aries Corner is I do a lot. So I had to kind of create myself a more so professional platform on social media, to where I don't like using my personal page for business and personal. I think that they should be separate. So Aries Corner has kind of became just my overall professional platform. So I still have those projects under it. I still do, the sandwich giveaway, the prom giveaway. I also have a book club now, which is under Aries Corner. So me and some females in the Charlotte area, we get together once a month and we discuss books that we read in our book club, just like for some girls' time. It's called Reading Between the Wines. So we have wine, we have books. we get together. That's still around like the women's empowerment segment of it.
Yeah.
I also do a little bit with Resilient through Aries Corner. I do some vlogs through Aries Corner. And I actually I'm a licensed realtor now. So that will also be under Aries Corner once I dive
Congrats.
into my real estate. Thank you. So yeah, now Aries Corner is just kind of my more so professional social media platform where, I post businesses, things like that on there.
Okay. Cool stuff. Because you've done so much and you do a lot now, something I think about when I do or after I've done everything I did this rather recently, actually, thinking about the skills that I have developed
Mhm.
over the course of time. I guess for you, what are some of those skills that you've developed?
Oh Lord, I would have to say it's a work in progress, but definitely time management. And I felt like I learned a lot of that in college. But my schedule, like if I showed you a picture on my calendar, you would be like, she's OCD. Because when I tell you like my calendar, and I have to do it like this because I do have so much going on, is like color coordinated. Because on top of all this, I still work a part-time job and a full-time job. And then I still have like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. So really time management and knowing when I can do things and when I have to fit things in and when I have to say no to things. And
Right.
also, okay, now it's time I have to just cut everything off and I have to take a day to myself. I feel like that's a big aspect of being an entrepreneur. Sometimes you just have to step back and be like, okay, you have to be a planner, you have to be organized. And I think those are probably the biggest skills with being an entrepreneur is
Hmm.
organization skills and knowing when enough is enough or you're doing too much at one time.
Right. I agree. Yeah, because I'm, just sitting here listening to you, and I do this a lot of times with other people that have multiple ventures going on. I'm always just thinking, I guess I'm thinking like an employer almost, like, okay, you can do this, you can do that, because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're like a walking nonprofit pretty much with a lot of these things. I guess with the on the Aries Corner side alone, like you got that, and then you have these skills on the resilience side, and I'm just like, yo, you can do some things like.
Thanks.
And you honestly, I guess like that's one of my frustrations with employers. Like they discount entrepreneurship because they just look at it as you're just either freelancing or working for yourself in some form or way. And like those skills are not, I guess, validated because it
Right.
wasn't with a company. And I'm like, that's a great thing about entrepreneurs. Like if you really look at what an entrepreneur has done, and then you look and see what they can do. Like I remember I had a friend of mine. He's an executive at Wells Fargo, and
Mm-hmm.
he told me, he's like, Cliff, you could be a project manager because these skills that you have and some of these projects that you've done, like that's all project management right there. He's like,
Right.
if someone just takes and teach you the formal side of, how to do it to a certain, to I guess whatever their standard may be, then he's like, you're solid. I'm like, really? I never thought of it like that. I'm just out here doing stuff.
Right. And I just want to note on that too, because like you said, companies don't know. Like, so I work for Wells Fargo too, and like I usually apply for like a promotion yearly or things like that. But when you're looking at like these job requirements and these job descriptions, like they'll be like, okay, well you have to have this, 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 and this. And it's like when you're looking at your resume, it's like the way you type up your job descriptions, it doesn't really enhance all your skills on there. So it's just like, you're putting in, okay, I had this job, I had this job, I had this job. They don't really look at your entrepreneurship or things like that. And I'm just like, I could kill this job. Y'all just
Right.
don't really know my skills well because I have to put it on this piece of paper.
Right, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
like
I could probably do this job better than you.
exactly. And I think like they just need to be more willing to, I guess, be more open minded. And that's why I guess really my biggest turnoff was just politics and
Yeah.
this whole like having to go through this process and have, like, come on, like you got, especially when you like, you ever talk to people and they say, "Oh, you're solid. Like you can do, like you can do this, you can do that. You're going to go in, okay." But you're talking a good game, but where's the where's the I
Exactly.
guess right. Like
Yeah.
I need that
I
in
get what
writing.
you're saying.
So yeah, like I'm glad somebody else understands. So it's always fun, talking to other entrepreneurs that not only understand the process but understand the struggles that come with being an entrepreneur, as well as maintaining a full-time job to help support everything on the entrepreneurial side. So yeah, before we wrap up, go ahead and shout out your social media so the listeners can take and follow you and stay up to date on what you have going on, and maybe even be a part of some of the things you got going on as well.
So on social media, you can follow me at Aries Corner. That's AERIS Corner, and then on Instagram as well at resilient period underscore, and then at the Hustle and Glow vlogcast. Those are my three social media outlets.
Cool deal. So yeah, guys, be sure to go follow her, go check her out, go support as well. I'm always down to help support and drive people to anybody that's on the show's business. So definitely go ahead and follow Resilient Aries Corner, and go follow and listen to the Hustle and Glow vlogcast. Definitely some good stuff that they talk about on there. Again, thank you everybody for continuing to tune into the SANE Show. Continue to like, listen, subscribe, share, and you can find us on every platform. That just found out we were on iHeartRadio too. So if you listen to iHeart, you can catch the SANE Show on there. Ariel, definitely enjoyed having you on the SANE Show again. I really enjoyed the conversation as well. Thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to come on the SANE Show podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, always, always welcome. Definitely have to have you back on again as well. Um,
Yes.
that being said, this is the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything, episode 37. And until next time, thanks again, everybody.